Greetings out there in YouTube land. Welcome to another episode of Tell It Like It Is. I am your host, Morrisman, and my co-host is
Joseph Spencer.
And today we're going to do another short, brief video because I think we need to do this for our young black men as far as when it comes to business, because I'm going to say this, starts this off by saying this. I didn't need nobody to tell me this, but I was told this, and it was just confirmation that I needed to know this. When I first started off in the work world, I started off at one of the largest food chains in the country, actually in the world. And I stayed there for over a decade, and I became assistant store manager at one point, and I left. But I started off as a facer or a bagger. And my first assignment was to face the shelves and straighten up the product on the shelves. And my starting time after school was 5:30 p.m. And I remember I was always taught by my parents that, you know, if you're going to work, if you're supposed to start at 5:30, be there at 5 o'clock or 5:15. And the manager got on one of my coworkers because at 5:30 p.m., this guy was walking in the store. And he said, look, 5:30 starting time means you're on the sales floor at 5:30 p.m., not walking in the door. You know, and I think some of us kind of can't understand that concept, because here's some examples that, you know, that led me to do this segment here. I think it's important that I do it. I was waiting at the store waiting for it to open up at 8 o'clock because I was in the vicinity. So I waited, and 8 o'clock came, 8 o'clock went, 8:05 showed up, and 8:07 showed up. I seen somebody emerging from the back of the store coming to open up the door on their cell phone, talking and having a personal call. This was the manager. You know what I'm saying to myself? If the manager's doing this, I can't imagine what the people under him are doing. And then another incident, I was at Radio Shack. I'm sitting there waiting. The manager didn't show up till 30 minutes after the time. And I'm like, you know, that's one reason why nobody wants to put any trust in us to give us responsible, high-paying jobs, because, and this is not pertaining to most of us, just some of us, that we're not reliable. You know, things that you should just know by common sense is just common sense. Because here's another one, and this happened actually today. Earlier this morning, I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, and the bell rang. I get up, and from the time that the bell rang, from the time I got to the door, Joe, was less than 10 seconds. I get there, it's the FedEx guy. And I get to the door, I see him writing out the little note. You know, like I'm not there, and he's going to slap it on the door. I'm like, I got to the door in less than a minute, and you already assuming that nobody's home, and you about to slap that stick on the door, and then wait. I got to wait another day for my Christmas packages to come. And then after I signed the little electronic mechanism thing, he asked me, he said, what does that spell? And then I didn't understand what he's saying. He said, what does that, because you know we can't read this. I'm like, it's the same thing that's on the package you just gave me. So I'm like, come on, you know, but we have to be more aware of what we do, especially when it comes to business. You know, you can't be slacking and half-stepping, because we already got people watching us anywhere and hoping that some of us fail. Yeah. You know, so, you know, with that said, you know, we have to just step up our game and be more attention to detail. Your parents have to instill in you what you need to be aware of when you start the workforce, because you don't know, you know, but it's no excuse that you show up at 5:30 with your coat on, walking into your business when you're supposed to be on the sales floor in your office cubicle at the time that you're supposed to start. Turn over to you. What do you think, Joe?
When I was a kid, I was brought up, the last one hired and the first one fired. Yeah. You know, that's that Jim Crow stuff. Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with your job performance.
It had nothing to do with your job performance.
It's just that they felt that perhaps the business wasn't doing as well, so
you were the first. You're the
first one that cutting out. And you could be the hardest working one.
The hardest working.
And still gonna get fired.
Yeah, you still. Yeah. And after I got out of high school, I went into wholesale and retail clothing. At the time it was called Mod. I would open up the store early. You know, my boss would look at me and go, "Why did you open up early?" I said, "Because I got one customer out there."
Yeah, sometimes you will open up early.
Yeah.
That's a good point,
And
you know,
he looked-
because you don't want to leave them out there
right,
waiting.
my that one customer, that's the first money of the day.
Yeah.
You know, I began to get an understanding of money, that money wasn't evil. It was something you needed to eat and sleep and whatever.
And people appreciate
Yeah.
when you go to the extra distance, because there's a cashier that in the mornings, my routine is I get up and I go get my paper. And when I go in there, she always, you know, very polite, very very sociable. And she do some things that, you know, some people you got to ask or tell, but it's like she knows, because I always have exact change for my paper, which is $1. And I walk in the store and I might see 3 people in line with grocery carts that's going to take 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I walk right past her, give her my $1, and I leave. And
Yeah.
she's so fine with that, because
Yeah.
our
Why
transaction
stand
is
there for
done.
20 minutes?
Exactly. So I appreciate people that go the extra mile like that, because she don't have to, because some of the other cashiers, they be looking at me like I'm an alien when I do that.
Especially if you're over 30.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what you're talking about. If I had a business, I want her working for me.
I would have her at the front desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's on top of it.
She- yeah.
You don't have to ask her, or, you
Yeah.
know, she knows.
She's
that
intuitive. She really is.
extremely. So that's why, you know, I gave her a Christmas gift today. You know, every year, you know, we put money in the card and we give it to her, just to let her know that we appreciate her. Because here's another story that ties in with this topic that I've mentioned before. When I was in my 20s, I was working part-time at this trucking company, and they paid good money. I was forklift driver, and before I got the job, you know, you go through the formality of getting a job. So they had an ad in the paper, and they said, show up at this hotel, because there was going to be a lot of people showing up to inquire. So they rented out a conference room in the hotel. They said, be there at 10 o'clock. Normally what I do is, if I'm not familiar with the neighborhood or the city, I drive out there the day before to make sure I don't get lost. But I think the other day got away from me. So I made sure that I left my home at about 8:30 that day to make sure that I made it there at 9 o'clock. And I got there about 30, 40 minutes early, and I sat there and I waited. And when I got there, and then it started at that time, they closed the doors promptly at 9 o'clock. And I kid you not, Joe, from 9 o'clock till about 9:45, people were knocking on the door and pulling the door.
Yeah.
And the man that was giving the presentation said, you hear those people out there? They're not getting in and getting jobs because we told them 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Not 9:01, not 9:05, 9 o'clock.
I don't understand how come Americans and young Americans, in the United States, time is money.
It
That's
says
one
a
of
lot
the
about
first
you.
thing, and time. And I was in the business world, and time is money, and money is time.
Yeah.
If you mess with somebody's time, you messing with their money. So they gonna leave you behind so they can go make their money.
Yeah, because you know what I realized throughout the time I've worked through my life? If you come to work every day on time, and you are least likely to get fired versus you are a good worker and you're late all the time.
You're right.
You know, so it's like that's just the first rule of work thumb.
That's if you don't have an idiot for a boss, and he does, you know. Some bosses don't just see you as.
Well, yeah, but we talking about more or
Yeah.
less just the individual
Yeah.
and his punctuality. Because you know, bosses are bosses, and you expect what to expect. But you know, and then also in that story, when we were there, the people that made it on time and were inside, they clearly stated in the ad in the paper to bring 2 number 2 pencils. 2 number 2 pencils. A lot of people didn't show up with nothing. And they made note of those people, and throughout the hiring process, because there were stages, those people didn't make stage 2. I didn't see them at the second callback. So, you know, when they tell you to do things, do them. You know, unless you got in a car accident or something unfortunately happened that really took your time away.
And they figure out they try to interview monkeys in the first place. You know, so if the monkey can't take simple instructions like 2 pencils and be
that's simple instructions.
Yeah, simple instructions.
Right, simple.
Hey.
So, you know.
You want the job, I don't.
Yeah. So, you know, we thought that we would do this brief
yeah, but this is some deep stuff. This is, you know, you got to know how to dress. You don't go looking for a job. Hey, Pops, what's up? I'm here looking for, I said, you got some jobs up. You don't do that. When I was a kid, I had 2 different wardrobes. The wardrobe the man wanted to see and where I wanted to dress.
Yeah. I mean, you know, all of that ties in together, being punctual, being showing up in the proper time. Because, again, we discuss this all the time, because to me, the foundation of everything is this, and that's family structure. That you have a mother and a father in the house, married to each other, taking care of you until you can take care of yourself. Because you are a reflection of the people that's supposed to have taught you, which are your parents. And if you come out here unprepared, it tells you a lot about what's going on in your house because it starts there. So, but on that note, we're going to sign off because we can talk about this for the longest. But the point that we were trying to make is, and not just young black men, just people in general, but I tend to notice this with our people, and
because we're around our people.
I'm not knocking our people because I love being a black man and I love trying to educate the young black man. But we have to stop this stuff about showing up at work on time, but not showing up and not being on the floor at the time you're supposed to, or you on your cell phone on the sales floor having a conversation that's personal. All that stuff needs to stop because people are watching you. And they observe what you're doing, and you're going to be treated accordingly. But on that note, as always, I thank you guys for coming to my show. I'm Morrisman. This is my co-host,
Joseph Spencer.
And until next time, keep thinking.
Merry Christmas.